Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you're listening to the podcast every week. And because you've been such faithful listeners, we've been ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you for listening in. And if you would, I know I say it all the time, but it really helps us out if you would review and subscribe to the podcast. Really appreciate that. Okay, now I'm really excited about today's conversation. I'm talking with Tania Khazaal. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Tania. She's the founder of Tania the Herbalist, Inc., and she is a business and life coach helping wellness practitioners in life and business. She is the author of the book, The Passive Profit Formula. And the book is about building your online wealth wellness business, create financial freedom, and live your best life on your terms. And she has other work that's grown since then, but she'll tell us more about that later. And she runs a seven-figure business helping thousands of wellness journeys and guiding over 100 health practitioners. I mean, I can't wait to hear more about this. Welcome, Tania the Herbalist.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. I appreciate that introduction.
Okay, so now you heard me read your introduction, but why didn't you tell us in your own words? First, tell us some more about you and then about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say I'm a unicorn, but you said it pretty well. For the longest time, I mean, I went from my entire life as corporate executive. That's what I did. That's what I went to school for. It's what I felt like I needed to do. Um, and then it turned into hitting a rock bottom point to burnout phase from the corporate executive role to finding my passion and purpose through that burnout. Not sure how much detail you want me to share, but my I was at the peak of the corporate world. And I'm talking about like lavish travels paid for my husband and I to Barcelona, to Vienna, to all of the places. And in my personal life is when I was the unhealthiest and unhappiest. I'm talking about chronic anxiety, puking every single morning for years, while my mother was on her deathbed from too many pharmaceuticals.
Oh,
And she's got a rare disease. And so she was on narcotics. And I'm talking about like, I don't know if I should say it on your post, but like narcotics, oxy, like all of the things that you should not be mixing and taking. And so I was at the peak of the corporate world when I broke down and I was grieving my mom while she was still alive. And I mean, broke down. I took time off work and I was just trying to be like, I was trying to find myself and ground myself. And I think through that, I always say a breakdown comes a breakthrough, of course. And that is when I was like, there's got to be something natural that I can do for her. And I went pen to paper and I just started to research everything I can about the nervous system and nerves, herbs that I can help with her nerves. And sure enough, she became a guinea pig because she's like, I've got nothing to lose. She got off of her narcotics. She got off of the medications after a decade. Obviously, doctors didn't believe it. And she started living again, laughing again. She's still with us now. She's traveling right now. And hence why Tana the Herbalist was born, is because I had this newfound passion to be like, oh my goodness, I need to share this with the world. But what's funny is when we find our purpose, it evolved into, okay, now that I found this and I love sharing this knowledge with people, I had so many wellness practitioners, people in the healing space being like, Tania, how did you leave your corporate job? Because I built it to a point of being able to make six figures and I left my corporate job, which to me was like impossible considering I grew up in community housing. So, grew up in community housing, leaving the corporate job is like a big no-no. My dad for years had a hard time swallowing the pill of like, you're leaving the stable job, but I did. And then people were like, how did you do it? How did you take your business online? How come you're not doing the one-on-ones anymore? And then that's when I realized, hence the passive profit formula. I was like, wait, why don't I teach people how to take their business online? It's not that difficult. You show up online, you create an offer, a digital offer, and you sell and you keep selling and doing all this stuff. And that's how my purpose kind of pivoted a little bit towards still being the herbalist, but now helping other people in the wellness space get online and share their knowledge and all of the things. And then from there, it evolved into the next phase and the next phase. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Is now I'm a little bit more about not just wellness practitioners, really being healthy and happy in all aspects of your life, in your relationships, in your health, in your mental health, in your the connections that you have in your work, in your purpose, because every single one of those bleed into each other, and I think is so important. And so now I'm just kind of realizing that each one correlates with one another.
Yeah, I can see how it's evolved as your life and you have evolved over time. And
That's right.
you said a lot. So let's go back a little bit because I feel like this is really going to inspire some people. All
Yeah.
right. So back when, and I'm so grateful that your mother's better. You
Thank you.
just said it so casually. Yeah, I made my own herbs and she got better. I mean, just like that's something every day somebody can do. Easy.
When it
You
becomes
know,
a part of
you
you, it
like,
almost, you're right. You almost don't take it as big as it is. Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I'm gonna go back to that. But even before that moment, let's go back to when you talked about you were in corporate. Is the reason why you left because you said there were things that were going on, or was it you don't have to go into the details. I'm trying to find out if it were because of the outside things that are going on outside of work or inside the job that said, I have to go. I have to do something different.
So I got at a point in my corporate role where I'm I'm very ambitious and driven. And so I guess with what was happening with my health and my mother's health, I was having that constant anxiety was like, I can't deal with the pressure that my work was putting on top of what I'm trying to deal with in my personal life, right? The deadlines, the quotas, all of that stuff. It was catching up with me to the point that there would be days, typically on a Saturday, that I wouldn't puke from the anxiety. And that's because I knew I didn't have work the next day, but then come around Sunday, knowing that Monday's coming around. And so I started to realize like I would be so anxious for Mondays because I knew that the week was going to get busy and I'm trying to deal with everything that I need to deal with my personal life. I don't have enough time to see my mom, do all of these things. And so no, I didn't I knew that I wanted to leave the corporate job. I only took a very short-term sick leave when I hit like a burnout point trying to help my mom and do all the stuff. But the reality is, just because I found that new ignited purpose, two things happened. One, I felt as I was excited about something again. So even though I knew I had to stay at my job, I didn't feel that this is the end all be all. So it made me excited to work towards something bigger. I was actually in the corporate world for 4 years before I built my business to a point of being able to leave.
You were doing both at the same time for 4 years, you mean?
Yep, with a 7-month-old at home, building my business. Yeah, like I went back to work when my son was 7 months old because at the time we couldn't afford for me to not work. My husband was working, I was with my baby full time nursing mama, no help at the time because obviously with my mom was dealing with and all the stuff. And so and I think that a lot of it was fun to find my purpose and I loved it and I loved that I was working towards something, but it doesn't mean that every day was just, rainbows and beautiful and all the stuff. It was a freaking hustle, but I was so focused on my future vision that I didn't make my current circumstances, an excuse.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can only imagine the work that it took to do that, especially in light of the health with your mother and everything like
Right.
that. All right, so you helped her first, and then you decided to do it as a business, or did you decide I'm going to create this business and it's going to help my mom and other folks?
I started with my mom, and from there, I fell in love with the knowledge. So what I decided to do is actually come 20, the end in 2018, I still remember it was September 2018, I decided to create Instagram. I joined Instagram. And I said, I just want to start sharing about herbs. People need to know about how these herbs can help them, like with the anxiety. Because as someone who did suffer with chronic anxiety, and I obviously saw doctors and everything, and they wanted to prescribe me the Zoloft and the Ativans and all of the stuff. Because of what I saw with my mom, I was scared. I was like, no, I don't want pills. Don't give me anything. Please, I've seen what it's doing. And so when I started to experiment with those myself and make my own elixirs and teas and all of the stuff, I just wanted to share that. I just literally just started by I want to share the knowledge. It was kind of like a blog, right? And that's kind of when blogs were like a thing and all of this stuff. And so that's how I started. I just got on Instagram. I want to share the knowledge. What happened from there is I naturally had people say, "Hey, do you sell these herbs?" And so then I started a tea business. I started to sell a tea business. I called it therapeutic. So it was like therapeutic teas. And I won Faces magazine and stuff. So it was like a big hit. It was like my first big accomplishment, but it was nowhere near enough to ever leave my daytime job. I remember being like, this is not sustainable unless I have a big distribution company. And so that eventually evolved into when I learned the digital side of things. I said, wait, I could still teach people about it, but without having to sell it. So then I created my first ebook and taught all about the different herbs where people bought it. And then it just kind of became recurring. And yeah.
Okay, and it took off from there. Okay, so now let's go back to the point where you were doing both, because I imagine there might be some people who are listening right now who are doing both, don't plan to leave right yet, because for whatever their situation is, they might like
Right.
doing both, or they're just, still not part of their immediate plan to leave. Somehow you figured it out. I mean, you survived that time, that 4 years. I mean, I don't want to bring you back if it's traumatic, but
That's no, I'm an open book. That's okay.
okay, so if you could recall some things that helped you get through it, because you had child, your mom, the business, I mean, what helped you get through that time? And not only did you get through it, you thrived because your business was able to thrive.
Ah, you can make me cry in a good way because I think when I look back now, I got closer to God more than ever. And I can't even say the love that I have for him because there's two things. It was my faith and it was future pacing. My faith, because I just knew, I said, there's no way that you gave me this aha moment to start to help my mom to not have a bigger plan than I can see. And so I started to realize that I have no idea how this is going to work. I have no idea how I'm ever going to leave my job, how I'm going to juggle. I have no idea. But all I know is I just need to show up every day and do the work. And the how he will help me figure out. And that tied into the future pacing, where it's like, I know where I'm headed. I don't know how. See, it's like the how. The hardest part is the how, but I just kept leaving that to him. And I said, how it's going to work out, how I'm going to get to that future vision, I don't know. But all I do know is if I keep showing up every single day, it's going to eventually happen.
That's amazing. And I can relate with that. So your vision that you saw, was it what it is now or what it had become? Was that what you were saying? One day I want to help all these. There was some guiding. What was your North Star back then?
You know what's crazy that you asked that? Because I'm not going to lie, I haven't actually thought about that until right this very moment. My North Star back then was I want to inspire people to know that you are not, you can become so much bigger than where you currently are, where you grew up. And I never thought myself to teach people business. I never thought myself to do all of that. However, now where I am and I've become more inspirational, I'm like, okay, that makes sense now. Like I said, when you grow up in community housing, at one point I got kicked out of my house. I was living out of my car with garbage bags. My car was going to get repossessed. I had defaulted for like 6, 7 months on a credit cards, actually, waiting for a subsidy check and all of this stuff. So I think but something in me was always like, I'm not a victim to my circumstance. I'm not a victim. I'm bigger than that. I know I'm meant to do something bigger. I'm meant to. And so I just knew that I was meant to inspire people, but I don't think I ever really understood what am I meant to inspire them about, right? Like, what is it? I just know that I make people feel good when I'm around them. I grew up and I was that friend that had the girls feel more confident and all of this stuff, but I didn't know what that was going to look like.
Yeah, yeah. But I think you just dropped, I think you just helped somebody right there. Because now they know they don't have to know. You were
That's
just
right.
following the thing inside of you. And so
Right.
now they know, hopefully just release the pressure off of somebody right there. Just follow the thing as it is and
You're
take,
right.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
we try to find that final destination. What I find, and I'm sure your listeners can relate, is a lot of people are like, okay, but I just want to know what it is, and then I'll get started. Then I'll get started. I'm waiting for the thing, the right time, the right sign, the right this. That's not how it works. Like even the right sign for those strong faith believers, like I'm waiting for God to send me a sign. That is already your sign. Your sign is just taking that first step. And then the second step, then you get shown that next step, the third, the fourth, the fifth, but none of it shows up until you're just like, I'm going to do it. And however it's going to happen, I'm going to find out along the way.
yes, yes. I love that. I love that. All right. So now you mentioned that struggling time. Was that before you had the corporate job in the business when you were like, you're sleeping in your car? Was that before all
It
this or
was, I mean,
during?
I was technically in the corporate. I was just fresh out of college. So I hadn't been in that corporate role yet. No.
Okay, all right, all right. So I'm just trying to create the timeline so we can just
Yeah, fair enough.
follow your journey. And it's an amazing journey. And you have been through it, so it might not seem like it because it's just your life, but it truly is amazing.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so you did this and you helped your mom, and now you're helping others. And so now that you saw yourself being able to help others, not even you were doing the blog, you said, and just helping people, what was the next sort of defining moment in the move? I mean, in your career journey?
Um,
Did that for a long time, a short time, or continue to do it? And
well, for 4 years, I was working in, so when I first created my first digital offer, and I remember that was in 2020 when COVID happened, which is ironically a perfect time to do that. Um, is when I learned about like funneling and upsells and digital offers and all the stuff. So this is back in 2020. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. So I built out my first funnel and I did my digital book and I got an upsell course and did all the stuff before like so many people are doing it now. And it was working. I was showing up on social media. I do some really good posts, and then people were buying it and then buying the upsells, which is exactly what the Passive Profit Formula book is all about. I teach exactly step by step how I built the funnel, how to create a course, how to put a digital offer, because it's easier now more than ever to do this stuff, how to show up on social media, that kind of stuff. And so I just did that. I knew that that's what I meant to do. And then I got on podcasts and I was connecting with people and going on lives. And somehow I now hit 10K months, 15K months. And I was like, what? On one funnel? Like that's possible? And so eventually we got to a point where we traveled for 6 months to Turkey and we took my mom with us. And um, my corporate job, and this is where I believe like God stepped in, is because this is when I didn't leave my corporate job, but my corporate job stepped in and was kind of like, you can't travel for that long. And I was like, no, but I could take a leave of absence. I've been with you guys for 8 years. It's, I've earned my stripes. And they said, nope, you come back on Monday or you can quit. And I said, this is my opportunity. Okay, I quit. And it just started to blossom from there. And I did that for years. I helped people. Well, shortly after that is when I started to help people do the same thing. And I did that with wellness practitioners for years and years. And I still do. But towards the end of last year, I had an aha moment, Robin, that told me, I didn't go through everything that I went through. And when I mean that, I mean, I had a tough relationship with my mother growing up, being the middle child, how I felt like she was always with my sister taking care of her and I was excluded and all this stuff. And I also grew up in very toxic relationships. I saw and watched abuse in my home. And so I was very in abusive relationships growing up, thinking that that was normal. To now marrying my best friend and how I found him and how it all came to be, to overcoming I grew up in not just community housing, it was kind of like the hood of our area. So like I grew up and I was, jerseys and all of the stuff, and I didn't really fit in anywhere. So I just remember having an aha moment at the end of last year, and I was like, okay, there's no way that I went through everything that I went through to just teach people business. And so that's when my next step of transformation took place, where I said, I love teaching people about business because I think financial freedom is so important in order for you to be able to live the life that you live. And I'll always forever share that. But there's so much more to it. And that's where the She's Empower and the movement started to change towards, okay, God, show me what you want me to share with the world, and I will share it. Just show me the way.
That because it shows in, you're a real life example of how life just unfolds. Keep going, do
That's
the,
right.
and it unfolds, and it'll open up the way for the next thing. That's
That's right.
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing all that. Now, would you say you have a sense of purpose in your life now and work?
Yeah, absolutely. Like what I'm focusing on now, which is probably so interesting, because I know that your thing is especially about purpose. Every single person has a purpose, and so many people are like, "How do I find that purpose?" I'm like, "It's not about finding it; it's about discovering it. You already have it. It's like going inwards, not seeking it outwards, right?" And what's crazy is I didn't realize what my purpose is now is I'm focusing more than ever on the sacred woman, but not the like new era kind of BS type. I'm talking about like stepping into our power as a woman, but also preserving the family unit, raising free thinkers, protecting our family, because I've seen now more than ever, I was down the rabbit hole of the medical system, right? But then it was also the rabbit hole of, wait, the entire education system. We were taught as women from such a young age to seek external validation. The performance reviews at work, the good grades at school, the how do I look good, that we never were taught internal validation, internal self-worth, and all of that. And I just started to realize that the moment that we can step back into that, oh man, like a lot of the corruption that's happening in the world would be so gone. The girls wouldn't be getting lip injections and fillers by 16, 17, 18, 19 before they even know who they are. All of this stuff that we're now seeing where they're dismantling our self-worth and our self-esteem at such a young age, and then dismantling the family unit where our most important relationships and connections are being destroyed. And the reason why I feel like that's my purpose now is because as someone who's and I'm just being confident as someone who's pretty and young and completely natural and faith driven. I want to show people that hey, you can have it all. You can. And I believe that God is instilling that in me so I can bring him back into the homes of people that are no longer making him a priority.
And it is, hear even more. You said, talked about, I asked if you have a sense of purpose. And that's what my definition of purpose is. You said people don't, find your purpose. I feel the same. I don't feel like you find your purpose. I feel like your purpose is to express who you really are, your authentic self. And when
Yeah.
that self grows and changes, like your life and you have grown and changed, the expression of your purpose changes. It's there, but it's expressed differently as you are different. And
And a
so,
lot of the times it's in our hardships, right? Like a lot of people are like, what is it? I'm like, okay, well, tell me two of the three hardest things you've ever gone through in your life and how you overcame it. Perfect. Share that with the world.
yeah,
You didn't
yeah,
go through that for no reason.
yeah. Love that. All right. So now the person that I imagine is listening to us right now, I call her a high achieving woman. Now I'll tell you my definition and then you can speak to her. She is, because high achieving could mean anything to lots of different people. So this is my definition of it. She's responsible for any number of these. She doesn't have to be all of these, but any number of these. Responsible, ambitious in a positive way. She's the one that people come to in her professional life just to get her thoughts or advice, whether it's related to the work she does or not, or even in her home, family, community, church. People come to her like she's the one who knows something, even though it might not be related to whatever the thing is they're doing. And or she's good at a couple things. So she's good at some things and she's happy to do it. And this is the person that I'm calling a high achieving woman. And now she's at the point in her life where she feels like, although everything looks okay, she doesn't feel fulfilled. She has all the things, checked all the boxes, but not fulfilled. And wants more, but just doesn't know, like, what is the thing? That's where she is now. And I believe her purpose is calling her. And so I invite people like you who've already gone through it to share your experience to inspire her. So now with that in mind, what's up? What anything from your heart or mind or experience, professionally or personally, would you say to that woman?
The first thing that I would say is congratulations because you did meet all the check boxes of taking care of everyone else, right? And what's so amazing and also dangerous about that is you're doing such a good job. Look how you're juggling everything while you're managing the home and the kids and the family and all of that. And once again, it becomes that external validation, like I'm doing it so well. but almost always it's at the cost of our own happiness. And you would know this is why autoimmune runs so high in women, because that suppression of expression really starts to fester inside of you. So the one thing that I would say is, especially for the moms, you have an obligation to discover your purpose and live it so that you can get excited from it, so that you can release that dopamine that starts to happen when you're excited about something, so that your kids will also learn and embody that, to know that there's a purpose for them, that they see mom not just surviving but thriving, because it's not about survival and getting everything done. It's about being excited about life. Like, you should and can wake up happy every morning, excited, go to sleep saying, thank you, God. Like, I love my life. I thank you for bringing me on this path, this purpose. I know I'm going to impact people. And it's not hard to do, but you just have to want to do it. And the moment you sacrifice yourself and your purpose for your family and everybody else, it does also teach them to sacrifice themselves at the cost of everybody else. And that's a dangerous game. And that's why I think it's so important that, and I always say, like, become the CEO of your life. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean you have to become an actual physical CEO tomorrow, but you become the CEO of, like, my purpose, my family, my relationships, myself, my health, and you don't have to compromise one for the other.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I believe it's speaking to somebody. All right. So now, before we tell people where they can get in touch with you, because I'm guessing they want to hear more and they want to follow you. But before we tell them that, what's something that, or maybe there's not something, but is there anything that I did not ask you that's on your mind as one more thing, or a thought that just popped up, or not? I just want to give you that opportunity because you've been so generous with your time and your wonderful spirit and your story.
The one thing that's for some reason sticking out to me is, as someone who has gone through thousands of health consultations before I moved into like hundreds of practitioners from the health to the business side of things, the two things that I always saw correlated, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing now, is one, when you don't have a purpose or pursuing a purpose, something that just excites you, even if it starts as a hobby, it does show up in your physical health. It shows up in your moods, in your sex life, in your intimate life. All it shows up. But the second thing I also noticed across the board of thousands of consultations is some of the healthiest people on paper, right? Eating organic, exercising, doing all the stuff. It was their inability to forgive, to mend relationship with the most important people in their lives, their parents, their children, or estrangement, all of those things. And that again affected their health more than anything. And so that's why I focus so much on these two, because no matter what happened in your family, you definitely probably want to rekindle relationships. And I want to help people do that. And then no matter where you are in life, you have a purpose and it's for you to make that come up. Both of those things literally can help you better than any diet you're going to do, any exercise that you're going to do, or anything like that.
Yes, I'm so glad I asked you if you had one more thing. You absolutely, definitely have one more thing. All right, so I'm imagining people are saying, how can I follow her? How can I follow her? So where can people follow you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm Tanya the Herbalist across the board. I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook, and my website, tanyatheherbalist.com as well. I'm on TikTok. Yeah, like you could just literally type in Tanya the Herbalist and I'm probably going to come up.
Okay, and we'll be sure to put that in our show notes. I
Thank
really,
you.
I really appreciate you for being here and sharing such an amazing story. I said to you before we started that I knew it was going to be like this, and lo and behold, it was exactly what I thought. So
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure. It was a great conversation.
thank you. Okay, everyone, I'd love to hear your response to this episode. I'm on all social media channels, but I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. Here's the same for all of them, at Robin L. Owens, PhD, at Robin L. Owens, PhD. So let me know what your big takeaway is from this episode. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.